not a new organization. We have been around, actually, this is our 26th year, and we were formed out of the need that was seen by a study from the National Academies working with NASA and saying that one agency alone can't do this work in isolation, right? We need to, we need to bridge the complex world of Earth observations is more than one agency alone, and there needs to be a place where people can cross agencies, can cross disciplines, can cross domains and work together. And out of that, ESIP was born. We are funded by cooperative agreements with NASA, NOAA, and the US Geological Survey. So those are our three core funding partners, and that makes up the bulk of our funding. If you take only one thing away from my message today, it's that ESIP is a community, right? It's a little confusing for some people. We are a nonprofit organization. We are a 501c3, but the work that the organization does, it's not done by our very small staff. It is done by a community of professionals who come voluntarily based on shared interests, shared profession, shared goals, and they do the work of the community. The staff that we have supports that community, right? Because community management and community support, enabling all these volunteers from 180 different partner organizations to do their work, our job is to provide that enabling environment. I like to describe our work in three primary areas. We have virtual collaboration that happens 52 weeks a year, and I'll go into more about how that is structured. ESIP was doing virtual collaboration before 2020. We had lots of Zoom meetings. That's not something new for us, and it's not something that's going to go away for us. Connecting people across the world through virtual means has proven to be an effective way to have conversations. And we like to pride ourselves on creative facilitation and ways to make those interactions really meaningful. Twice a year, we do have all community meetings. I was saying maybe when you joined, we have a January meeting that right now is fully virtual. It used to be always in the DC area. We just wrapped that up. We had over 200 people for a week. And then we meet in person once a year in mid-late July. And this year that meeting will be in Asheville, North Carolina. And we're expecting 300 to 400 people at that meeting. And then we have our ESIP lab, which I'll go into a little bit. That is kind of our experimentation space, right? We give, with the federal funds we receive, we give small awards out to help seed ideas and learning. We also provide sandbox and innovation spaces for our federal partners. So at the anniversary, at our 25th anniversary, we decided it was time to refresh the ESIP mission and vision. And so I really like to share this with folks so you see who we are. ESIP at its founding was a little bit internally focused, right? We are this community of data people who love data and get really passionate about data, and we support each other, right? We worked with our board and our community to make our mission and our vision more externally focused, right? When we as an organization have done all our work and we can all retire and ride off happily into the sunset, what does the world look like? And we decided that our vision is this. It is a world where data-driven solutions are a reality for all by making Earth science data actionable by all who need them anytime, anywhere. Right? I feel like I have job security because that is not something we're all going to solve tomorrow. It's a big vision, right? And words that I highlight in it are a world, right? While we are primarily U.S. federal agency funded, we know that the problems we are looking at are global. We have partners from multiple continents. While we are not truly an international organization, we have international reach and we welcome international participation. Making these solutions a reality for all, right? I loved in some of your introductions what you guys all talked about of the focus on user needs, right? I'm actually not a data scientist. I came to ESIP as a frustrated user, and that I came to become passionate about a better data infrastructure because I was a frustrated user. And I said, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be more efficient ways to do this. We've got, in my case, it was NOAA and the US Army Corps and data sets that just weren't talking together. So making data available for all and that focus on who is, for all who need it, right? For all who need it, who is that? And does that change? And then our mission. So what is our unique role in achieving that vision? is to empower innovative use and stewardship of Earth science data to solve our planet's greatest challenges. And my favorite word in our new mission is the word empower, because it's absolutely impossible to deliver on empower alone, right? If you are empowering someone, there is someone else you are working with. And so that is really core to who we are, right? No one's doing this alone. We're not working in silos. And we are making it so data is more usable and useful for others, right? And so there's that service element of it. So how we do this is this virtual collaboration piece I told you that I would tell you more about. So we have 30 collaboration areas, a combination of committees and what we call clusters, and I'll explain that more in a second, that meet monthly. So yeah, we set up a lot of Zoom meetings every month. So we have 30 groups of people. We have our Semantic Technologies Committee is meeting right now. 30 groups that meet monthly around common challenges and opportunities. That equates to over 200 telecons each year, right? And over 2,000 hours of collective brain power, right? People coming from different agencies, universities, private sector companies, over 2,000 hours of their collective time that they are bringing to this community because it is a place where they can come to solve common challenges, right? The collaboration, this is a list of our current collaboration areas. We have committees. A committee is something we see as kind of evergreen, right? ESIP is always going to be working in the area of data stewardship and education and interoperability and semantics and equity, diversity, inclusion, and justice, right? Like these issues, we don't see us solving the problem and they go away, right? We also have our administrative committees here as well that are the governance of the organization to make sure we as an organization are sustainable. Those have elected leadership each year and more formal structures around them. Then we have what we call clusters. Clusters are a group of people that see a shared challenge or opportunity, and they say, we want to work on this. We need some enabling infrastructure to come together to solve this challenge or this opportunity. And some of them will find a specific challenge or opportunity. They'll spin up, they'll do what they set out to do, and then they'll spin down, and then they're free to go work on other things and other priorities. Others will evolve their charge. You know, every couple of years, they'll say, okay, well, what's important in marine data right now? Okay, well, what's important in marine data next year? And so some have been around for a while and others are newer. The ones that are bolded here are clusters that have spun up in the last 12 to 18 months. So our open science cluster, our operational ethics cluster, wildfires kind of spun. We have our disaster life cycle cluster, and they found fires were so big that they were always talking about fires, and they thought, oh, I think we could spin wildfires off separate from disaster life cycle. You know, in our world of climate change, right? We've got so many disasters we need to be looking at the information needs for. So that's just a sample of the kind of conversations that are happening every month in ESIP, right? And you'll notice that some of them are more domain specific, right? Wildfires, marine data, air quality, right? Like they're a specific topic, and others are more technical in nature, right? Data readiness. When Douglas will talk a little more about that, defining what is AI ready data, right? More of our machine learning cluster, our cloud computing cluster, right? Those topics are going to cross domains, but be more technical in nature. As I mentioned earlier, a key program that we offer is our Community Fellows program. As a professional organization, building the pipeline of professionals coming into this field is really important to us, especially for those of you with federal agencies, making sure your workforce is ready, right? And that the people are out there with the skills you need to be able to go into your federal positions. We often see our community fellows going into federal fellowships, which we see as success. But we, while they are in graduate school, we stipend them and they partner with our clusters. We assign them to a cluster. They learn about community management. They support our 2 conferences a year. And we give them supercharged networking experiences over the year or 2 that they are fellows with us. And some of our fellows have just, Douglas being a shining example, have just absolutely launched into their careers, and then they come back and they participate in ESIP wherever they land, which is really fantastic. As I mentioned, twice a year, we gather the whole community, right? So each month there's 30 different conversations happening. We need to bridge that. Twice a year, we come together so that people can see what's happening in other places. Because, right, I mean, I can't even attend all 30 of our collaboration area calls every month. So this is a place where you can have meeting sessions, share out with a larger community the work that you're doing. Um, Interesting of note, what would be here is, so, some of the issues that one domain specific area may be wrestling with may be absolutely relevant to another, and they wouldn't have even known it. And so these meetings allow that sharing to happen on a bigger basis. And this gives you a sense for our size. If you're someone that goes to AGU or AMS or some of those huge meetings, right, that's not ESIP, right? An ESIP meeting is going to be 200 to 300 people, online, in person, 300 to 400 people, much more manageable size for that networking and relationship building. A lot of first time attendees come to our meeting, and people really have a good time. We pride ourselves on that. Our next meeting is in Asheville, North Carolina. Here are the dates. We would love to have any of you there. All of the content for our meetings is community contributed, right? So the 30 clusters and committees can propose sessions, but anybody can propose a session, right? If you all wanted to share with ESIP, how the Applied Earth Observation Partnership works and what are opportunities, you could propose a session and share with our community more about what you're doing. So there's all kinds of opportunities there. We know that Asheville is going to be a very popular location, right? Twist my arm, make me go to the Blue Ridge in late July, right? It'll be warm, but it'll be beautiful. So we're really looking forward to it. And then the last area I wanted to highlight for you all was our ESIP lab. So this is this innovation space. At the heart of ESIP is innovating and trying, right? We were working on some statements around our mission and vision, and saying, like, the question is almost as important as the answer, right? And that's where the ESIP lab comes in. So we take a small portion of the federal funds we receive each year, and we award those out in small grants for researchers, usually early career researchers, because they're small, right? Senior career researchers that are going after $1 million grants don't want to go through the paperwork for $10,000. But these grants are meant to help an early career researcher overcome a learning objective, right? So instead of a proposal where we go and we say, I have all the answers, fund me, we want the researcher to come and say, I think I am this close to unlocking something huge. If I could just spend some dedicated time to learn this thing or learn a new workflow, and we give them that space to spend the time on that. So a big area that we've been working on recently has been cloud migration and experimentation, and we've leveraged some contributions from cloud providers to allow people to experiment with AWS, with Microsoft Azure, with other providers to see what's possible. While our federal friends can't receive grant funds, because that doesn't work, right? Like, you can't give us money and then we give it back to you. They don't let us do that. We do have a few areas in the ESIP lab where I would say we set up sandboxes, we set up spaces that are outside of the federal firewalls, outside of the authoritative federal systems, where our federal partners can experiment and play. And I use play lightly. I think you know what I mean. But so here are just a couple of examples where we have worked with NOAA and NASA, either through technical evaluations of projects and looking at infusion, looking at various areas. And one area where this has been really successful was with the NOAA Cloud Pathfinders program, where, some teams from NOAA experimented with moving some things to the cloud and found out what was possible, what wasn't possible, and then they were able to go back and operationalize that. And so that project has actually moved to the NOAA cloud now, as a result of the experimentation they did with us. So we were really proud that we were able to enable that in a neutral space. This is our staff. We have 3 full-time and 2 part-time staff. We are fully virtual. We are spread around the country from Montana to Virginia. I am personally in Severna Park, Maryland. So close to the DC area, close to Goddard. Love to get together in person. And like I said, we have a range of skill sets on our team, from very technical to operations and communication, and that's what it takes to support this community of 180 partner organizations. Quick link here, I drop it in the chat if I can do it easily. The easiest way to get connected with us is to go to this center link in the middle, esipfed.org, get involved. We are launching a new website within probably about a week and a half, so it may look a little different depending on when you go, but we do a once a week email, our ESIP update, that is the best way to stay to get up to speed on all the things that are going on. The other place that's great to plug in with us is we have a very active Slack channel. We have about 2,000 earth science data professionals on our Slack channel. And you'll find, different, each group has their own channels in there, but we've got job boards, we've got all kinds of places where people can just come and ask a question, and really awesome, helpful people jump in and say, how can I help you? Oh, I know a person, let me connect you with them. And that's really at the heart of what we're about, connecting people who have shared interests and goals to solve their challenges, to make data more useful and usable. So that's my quick overview, but I'd love to turn it over to Douglas to share kind of maybe more specific examples of how ESIP has enabled him in his work, and kind of the value you see in it.
Great, thanks, Susan. So I'm now speaking from my phone because I don't trust my Wi-Fi, so I called in. So this 202 phone number is not a random person. Just want to make sure everyone is not too alarmed. So I want to share a few examples that I've seen through in ESIP since I joined ESIP as a community fellow 5 years ago, like Susan mentioned. I used to be at University of Maryland. That's when I joined ESIP in the meetings. And I first started with ESIP's machine learning cluster. And so that cluster is only about 4.5 years old. But throughout the years, I have been working with other groups. So just 2 years ago, the ESIP machine learning cluster has been working with NASA Earth Science Data System Working Group, trying to complete a review paper that's called EarthAI that's been published last year. And that paper has been like top cited and top downloaded that year in the journal, doing a comprehensive review of AI applications in the earth science domains. And right now, the cluster has been working on the practical AI white paper that is also as an outcome as collaboration between the cluster and the NASA ESDS working group in the past 6 or 9 months. So that has been submitted to another journal as well at this moment. And so that's really that's one example of the ESIP collaboration between community and swamp agency. As I mentioned earlier, I'm also with NOAA. So with NOAA Center for AI, we have really strong focus on how can we make the NOAA data to be used by machine learning users and AI users. So that's why we started something called AI-ready data. When we started doing that, we looked at ESIP as a perfect location, a perfect venue to bring people together from research and industry and government agencies, data providers together to figure out what do we mean by AI-ready data and how we understand the community needs. And so that we issued a survey through the ESIP Data Readiness Cluster, which is another relatively new cluster. It's about 2 years old at this moment. And it has really grown and developed those partnerships with other groups like the World Data System and the UK Met Office. And we are also having conversations with other federal agencies like NIH who reached out using the outcomes from the Data Readiness Cluster. And the Bipartisan Policy Center also reached out to us and Susan when they issued a white paper about AI-ready open data as a non-partisan organization to urge the development of those topics. And another example is really looking at international perspective, like where the marine data cluster is also a relatively new but really active cluster within ESIP. So starting from last year, they have been looking at UN Ocean Decades, which is one of the ambitious initiatives from United Nations, trying to look at 10 challenges that they want the entire community and the world to address. So the marine data cluster has been looking at how ESIP community can contribute to those 10 challenges, identify the ambitious initiative with the United Nations. So just the last January, the past January, the class has been have been like in those working discussion sessions for 3 different sessions, trying to look at those issues. So it's a continuous conversation discussion within the community, started from July last year in Vermont. One last thing, it's really community driven. Everett like mentioned about the wildfire, which Susan also mentioned about the really new wildfire cluster within ESIP. This week I was happened to driving on the West Coast and then driving along California, Oregon. I see all the burn scars of those wildfires in the area, and that really makes the urgency of how we can use earth science data to help decision makers and the local communities to make the plan for the wildland fire management. So that's when the classes started. Dave Jones is one of the main driver or the main instigator of the whole classroom. And we had the fortune to have Everett speak in some of our sessions and meetings in the past. And so really recently, the focus of the classes look at the USDA Wildland Fire Mitigation and Management Commission report and see where's the place for the ESIP community to contribute to those recommendations made in those reports. So I think I'm just gonna like stop here to share to just have a more in-depth conversation with everyone here to see what do you see the ESIP might be a good fit for some things that the group is interested to addressing. So I'm gonna stop here and then mute myself again.
I'll just chime in with a quick comment that I think it's very encouraging that the wildland fire was decoupled from disaster, in that a lot of the problem is that it's been framed nationally as a war on fire and that fire is bad. And so it's not necessarily a disaster. It can be if it's your home and your community for sure. But part of the mantra of what we're working on is reducing the risk involved with getting more fire on the landscape. So that's a little bit of a tangential issue related to fire. But anyway, let me open it up and we can see what other people, if anyone else has some comments on what we just heard. And I got some ideas about or I'd like to put out in the conversation for the next half hour, what the interaction is between ESIP and AEOIP and how is it possibly a forest and rangeland management collaboration area, or is there an opportunity for forests or Forest Service to become more involved with ESIP? While we maintain maybe the nuance and specific mission of AEOIP, where's the leveraging opportunities to work with ESIP? Looks like Everett's got a hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the limited engagement I've had with ESIP so far has been very positive. I really enjoyed the wildfire workshop. I guess it was about June of last year. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I thought it was very well done, and I think there's lots of opportunities for engagement between the AEOIP and ESIP. Broader than rangeland and fire and so forth. But I think there's lots of opportunities for cross-pollination and support there.
Yeah, I'll just say, well, first of all, I just have to say, Susan, I live really close to you because I live in Crownsville and I drive to Stern Park almost every day to take my kids to swimming or some other activity that's over there. So that's awesome.
You might be driving right by my house.
I live on I live like on the south side of the Severn River, so I look into Severn Park every day, out my window.
I love what a small world it is.
Yeah, so unrelated, but just very cool. Yeah, I think it could be really interesting to kind of see how AEOIP could work with ESIP. And I think maybe Everett put in here, he's hosting a AI machine learning forum. And, I wonder if there's opportunities to kind of partner and do that kind of thing within AEOIP and like with ESIP, or if there's some way that we can bring some of these topics to the forefront and kind of have a collaborative effort to do something similar to that, but within our group, or if there's like I don't know, like a hackathon thing or some question that folks in AEOIP want to answer, and we can kind of collectively work on a solution together like that.
That's a really good. I'm going to jump in front of you, Sabrina. I think that's a really good point, Liz, and I think the AI and machine learning piece in particular is it's a really intriguing and sort of confounding technology that's unfolding in front of us. And it's one of those things that I think it's going to be a real game changer when it comes to remote sensing analysis, production of products, and so forth, and just sifting through this vast amount of data that we have coming at us. We've learned that, for example, in fire, that we can't put enough analysts in front of screens to be able to, to do all the work that needs to be done. And so I've been pushing really hard to get some AI and machine learning into that process to help relieve some of that burden there, and also tap into some of the potential of things that we haven't been able to do in the past. So I think that, that AI and machine learning is groundbreaking. It's really going to change remote sensing in, I hope, positive ways. And so I think that any sort of collaboration that we can do there to figure out where the boundaries are, where's the low-hanging fruit, and working with partners inside and outside the government, that we're going to be able to better harness and direct this technology as it develops.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of your comments, and I love the hackathon idea. I'm thinking, in terms of our goal for, or what we've been thinking about the communities of practice, right? Especially with our upcoming workshop, and thinking about this focus on wildfires. If we could, if ESIP has this cluster on wildfires, if ESIP could help us, keep this community of practice that perhaps formulates with the workshop going, right? So I don't know if, with participation from the people in the workshop, in the different ESIP activities, or somehow just, yeah, I don't know. I think just in terms of the community of practice, just keeping it, using ESIP as a way to organize and help in maybe with the discovery of the data, or I don't know, in formulation of those activities, something to keep that community of practice alive.
Muted, sorry. It would be helpful for me to hear from you all. What are the challenges that you face with AEOIP in terms of, is there an inertia problem, right? Like, is there, if you think about the full potential that you would like to see for your efforts, what is the hardest part of getting there?
I think the hardest part, and this is just me talking off the cuff here, is getting to all the right people. You're trying to connect communities, and a lot of it happens by capillary action and diffusion, and you reach out to people that you know, and that's not always the most efficient or effective way to make those connections. And so having a broader forum or community of practice like we have here is a really good way to bring people together, to introduce people, to make known those people that have the needs and also that have the capabilities that they'd like to share. But I think that's always in any organization. It doesn't matter what it is. Within the Forest Service, it's always difficult knowing if I'm getting to everybody that I need to with the information that I need to share with them.
Yep. Yeah, I'll go to a large conference. I was just at AMS the other week, and you think, oh my gosh, like you see a poster and you're like, are these people talking to these people? Because
Right.
it's like you're trying to do the same thing. And man, how powerful would it be if you actually were working together, or at least aware of each other's efforts?
Right.
And that is an area where I see ESIP is helpful, in terms of really trying to get at that, not reinventing the wheel, and really trying to look at, okay, how many agencies are looking at how do we scale AI and ML to process data faster, or, and does it really matter if it's NOAA looking at fisheries data or you looking at forest data? There's differences, absolutely. Which of those differences are critical that you need to have a separate effort? And then which of those conversations actually are not different, right? So it's I think that there are certain elements of the work that you're doing that absolutely could be amplified or enhanced by leveraging ESIP's larger and different audience. But then there are parts of it, right? Like user engagement is actually something like that. Actually directly engaging with user communities doesn't often happen at ESIP, right? In the monthly calls, like the marine data cluster could bring in a group of users and talk with them, but like you're not going to get users to register for an ESIP conference, because when they look at the program and they see that we're going to have 5 sessions talking about metadata, they're like, shoot me now, I'm not going to that, right? So we try and look at what are the things that we do well and what are the things that we don't do well, and how do and that's the beauty of ESIP, right? Like you can come and participate and take the parts that work and don't take the parts that and then keep doing the elements of your work that may not fit as well with us.
Kind of at the other end of that spectrum that Everett mentioned, and speaking a little bit to Amanda Armstrong's comment, who's now since left, about how difficult it is for us to get financial support to maintain this group in a minimal way. One of the challenges that I think we face is we make these handshakes, right? Or how did Everett put it? I forget. It
The
was really funny,
switchboard
though.
operator.
Yeah, the switchboard. Yeah, we turn the call over, but we never hear that conversation. We might not hear that conversation or what came from that conversation. And so getting money for us is really hard when we can't really demonstrate effectively, what came of that switchboard call. Where did that relationship go? And so, potentially running things through ESIP, like pilot projects or lab projects, might be one way that we could consider, demonstrating that value of AEOIP.
Yeah, I mean, I will say in terms of visibility, I mean, we just, like I said, we're in the middle of our website, redoing our website, and we have a whole new impact section, right? And sometimes it's hard, like in our 30 collaboration areas, some of them get together and just have a webinar series and are just sharing information, right? And like that's not, that's they might have 30 people on a call every month, and it's really great numbers and it's really great people and they're more aware of it, but like demonstrating the impact, right? Then you have things like schema.org that came out of ESIP that people are like, oh my gosh, right? Like that was ground shaking. So the demonstrating impact is interesting. For better or worse, so we are funded through 3 different cooperative agreements with 3 different federal agencies, and they're 5-year agreements, right? So we have nice, stable funding. From the NASA perspective, I mean, I have very senior people at NASA who approve my awards and get my reports. And so there is some potential that if you were engaging more with us, it actually might get more visibility for the work you're doing. We do support, I didn't put a lot about it in my presentation because I'm trying to get out of the meeting planning business, but we do run workshops for our federal partners. We run NASA's ESDSWG workshop, which is actually coming up in a couple weeks. We run NOAA's Enterprise Data Management workshop. For Douglas and their team, we run NOAA's AI workshop, right? I mean, I know you have a workshop. The agencies put money into our agreement to help make sure that those workshops happen. We do not have an agreement currently with USDA. I've been trying. We had a USDA board member from the National Ag Library on our board for a few years. We've just had trouble getting into USDA, but that's okay. yes, I would love, it's my job as executive director for the organization to raise money. I would like to raise more money. I would like to get more federal partners paying. At the end of the day, it is free to be a partner of ESIP. When we charge people, we charge a registration fee for our January and our July meetings because we have to cover our costs, right? And then we also like to use those registration fees to provide scholarships for people who otherwise wouldn't afford to be able to attend. So yes, like there's the money part of it, but money doesn't have to be a limiter at starting to take the first steps of what would a partnership look like, right? I joke I have a call with our private sector partners in a couple weeks, and if I told them there was a membership fee, they would all pay it. I'm still trying to figure out how to have us. I love that we are a free and open community, but still always trying to work the business model end of it as well.
Yeah, I think there's some really exciting opportunities to stay in touch with on this. I think that if you go, Everett looked like he had to step out, and it's interesting to me. You might be okay with the USDA not being a member, but in the Forest Service, I'm like, no, that's not all right. We need to think about this a little more carefully. And I think that with AEOIP being very bottom up, very loosely sort of organized around people, best efforts, and volunteerism, it would be hard, for example, for me to ask the deputy chief of R&D to contribute to AEOIP. They'd be like, I could give some of somebody's time, and I don't know, Everett, on the National Forest Service system side, could Chris French give money to AEOIP? It's like we just don't have anywhere to put it, or like what would it be? And would it be, well, we got the TWISC workshop this year that's going to Michigan Tech to fund the workshop, but we don't have the TWISC formula to get solicit proposals for workshops in the Forest Service. And so I wonder if there's a way that an ESIP partnership could be a way to facilitate, thanks, Jess, this more formal, possibly contributions and connection of USDA and the Forest Service to AEOIP type of work, this commitment to that work. And maybe, I'm sure you don't want to just be a pass-through organization or a bank, so to speak, but I think there's a lot of awareness and recognition, stability that, when you look at your partnership areas on your website, that we could take advantage of and maybe plug into. Again, I think we want to respect this fairly free form, grassroots, bottom up. We are just making, sometimes it's just the switchboard operator, and I don't necessarily want to have metrics that mean we've got to stop doing that, or I don't think it would behoove AEOIP to move away from that work. Could we do more with following up those connections? Yes, indeed, I think we can. Could we fund maybe pilots that would go on? Sure, if we had resources to come into it. But even if we did, I currently don't think we'd have, like, let's say, Forest Service wanted to put 100K to move on 3 of these projects. I wouldn't know what to do with it other than maybe, well, we could have cooperative agreements for the 3 different universities that are doing it, but we wouldn't know until they're there. And so, I think there's, I don't know, Everett, you came on camera, you're back. You can kind of speak to the Forest Service kind of, and there's other land management agencies too. So we could think about not just USDA, but others. But I see some opportunity here, I guess. It would just be in closing, or to summarize that rambling comment.
You hit on some good points there, Jeff. And yeah, funding in the Forest Service and trying to scrape out funds for things like this is such a difficult thing. I'll give you an example. NAEP, we have the National Agricultural Imagery Program, which we're a funding partner of. And every year I have to scrape and claw and, to try to get our partner share. And this year we're falling well short. But the weird thing in the Forest Service for me has always been, well, if I go back 10 years, 15 years into the past, funding was a little bit looser and there was a little bit more discretionary feel to the funding that we were getting. Now it seems like everything is locked up and pointed towards certain things. So it's really hard to claw loose some funds. Like if I went to Chris French, I don't know what he'd say to me, but he'd probably say, well, that's a great effort, but I'm not sure that we can find funding for that in the current climate and so forth. But yeah, it's really difficult in an organization like the Forest Service. I don't know how the USGS compares. I don't know if Berg it's on. Probably not. But yeah, it's not fun and it's not easy. But I'd love to give money to something like ESIP because like I said, I've really enjoyed my engagement, my limited engagement with ESIP over the past year. And I think there was another group that I was involved with further in the past, but be that as it may, yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. Frenchie?
Yeah, just, maybe it's a hard question to Susan, but like, let's say, where's that balance between maintaining an AEOIP autonomy and what we love about it and becoming more connected with ESIP? I guess that's probably something to be cognizant. Not that hard of a question, but it's like that would be like something for us to sort of consider moving forward with
Yeah,
it.
I think that's a great question. I was going to ask someone to expand a little bit more on the switchboard operator analogy. I'm not quite sure what is it about the switchboard operator that's so special, but what and what is it? Help me understand the pieces of the autonomy that you would be afraid to lose, because I don't know that you would lose any.
Yeah, and I'm not assuming we would, or I think, maybe it's just that recognition. It's your term, Everett. You want to take a stab at the switchboard?
Yeah,
I got some
it's.
examples too that we could.
I
share
think
with
it's something that we would have to talk internally about. The autonomy piece and where we might lose something or where we might gain something. But yeah, in terms of the original concept of this group, the idea was to, really understand who the subject matter experts are in different fields, both within the Forest Service and the other land management agencies, and try to understand what their information needs are. And we've done that through a number of different ways, having workshops and meetings. And we had during the pandemic, we had a pitch fest where we entertained 50 proposals and we did lightning talks and so forth. And it was a really great way to understand what the remote sensing information needs of the land management community is. I started looking, I refer to the book of abstracts on a regular basis because there's so much dense, good information in there that really helps me as the national program manager to understand what the needs of the field are. And that's a really hard thing to do. Unless people are coming directly to you saying, "Hey, I don't have this or I don't have that," and I'll give you an example of the other community of practice that I've been working on for 20 years, the Tactical Fire Remote Sensing Advisory Committee. We started that group up because we didn't really know what the information needs of the fire community are. So you bring people together, you say, okay, we have these capabilities, you have these needs, let's see if we can start to fill some gaps. And you work sort of hand in hand over time, and you really start to develop a better understanding of what the information needs are, and then also what the art of the possible is, because technology is moving forward, capabilities are moving forward. So you need to stay abreast of those developments as time goes on, so that you can help to patch some of those into the information needs of the land management community. So I think the notion of having a community of practice where people come together, you start making these connections with, oh, you're working on this, let's work on this together, and this is where we can get the data, this person over here. And so that was kind of the general notion behind the AEOIP when we first started it up.
Yep. Yeah, I think that I don't think that there's as much risk at losing autonomy as you might think, right? We often say that, I've different analogies of ESIP, right? Like people come to ESIP conversations from their own organization. As a group, they work on solutions and then they take those solutions back with them, right? What I find the value, so I've worked in nonprofit management for over 20 years. And what I find one of the core values of ESIP that we could bring to your effort and figure out how to make it work is we have the organizational capacity to make things happen, right? Sometimes I find, lots of people want to start up a small, and you're not starting up, right? You've been going for a while, but right, it takes planning and organization and scheduling to make your calls happen, to set the agenda. And we put some of that back on our volunteers, right? If you are if you're a cluster chair or a committee chair, you set your agenda, you do that. But we will say, okay, there's going to be a January conference and a July conference, right? That almost provides a little bit of a deadline to say, ooh, well, how do we want to take advantage of that opportunity? Ooh, maybe we should move this product along so that we can get feedback on it from the broader community, right? There's something behind that, right? When we have workshops, right? Like we have community participation guidelines in place so that if there's anybody being a bully or a jerk, we know how to handle it. Doesn't happen. Happens very rarely, but we have all of those systems and structures in place to help support the community and the community dynamics, right? And we have that broader reach, that broader audience. I mean, I have to say, when Jessica reached out, I was thrilled. Before I came to ESIP, I worked for an organization called Chesapeake Conservancy, which is based here in Annapolis, worked throughout the Chesapeake watershed. And one of our team's core products was land cover, right? And the products that they put out, and I see this as a missing, it's just an area that I think could be strengthened with more participation in ESIP. Douglas, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, Susan, do you want to talk about maybe some other groups like the Council of Data Facilities and other things that kind of like move into ESIP as a place where they find themselves a home for those collaborations and or sustainability for some of those efforts?
Right, that's a good point. So we do have a couple of our clusters. The two that come to mind are the Council of Data Facilities and COPTUS, which is the Coalition on Publishing of Data in Earth and Space Sciences. Ooh, I'm glad I remember that acronym. Those were kind of standalone groups that were in other places. In the case of the Council of Data Facilities, they were part of an NSF-funded effort called EarthCube. When EarthCube went away, they still wanted to exist as a group. And so we said, come on into ESIP, form a cluster, and stay here as long as you want, right? If you decide you outgrow us and you want to spin off and do your own thing, that's fine. But we host we give them that convening power and that regularity and that support. So it's not it's not an unknown model to us. We are not allowed to be a pass-through funder. So I have to figure out, if there are funding needs, how we make that work. It's actually specifically spelled out in our policies and procedures that I can't pass through funding. That's that our committees receive funds, right? They get a budget each year. And so our committees get budget funds, and clusters can apply for what we call special project funds. They can get up to $5,000 a year for various things. It's often if they're doing a publication and they need open publication fees or things like that. So I'm just looking at time.
Yeah.
Jessica, you very kindly invited someone from ESIP to attend your workshop in Ann Arbor. And I've spoken with our communications director, Allison. She lives on the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. So it's still far, but it's closer for her. And she is pretty confident she can attend. Our travel budget is a little tight, but we were talking about it. And, she said that if you all were interested in having us get to know you more, that she would be happy to attend the workshop. We hired her from Michigan Tech. So she also was like, I know some of those people, that would be fun. So, my thought on next steps would be, let's keep getting to know each other and see how we feel the fit works, right? Allison can come to your workshop. And then I would think that for you all, the next best step would be, does the ESIP community feel like a good fit to you, right? Like, so if there are a couple people that can come to our meeting in Asheville, that would be the best way to get a sense of the broader community and how we work, right? And how we operate. Maybe host a session. I saw Douglas mention me, he thinks a lot of people in ESIP would be interested to hear more about what you do. So that's a couple thoughts that I had.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I do hope that a few people here in this room might be able to attend. Unfortunately, no one from ESD headquarters can due to hard conflict, but we'll definitely stay in touch, and I'll look forward to hearing Allison's final RSVP. I think it'd be great if she could attend and participate in some of those conversations, especially since it's very focused on end user needs. So yeah, I hate that
Can
we
you put
ran
the
out of
link
time, but
into the? Can you put a link, Susan, to the ESIP meeting? I don't see it on your website, but maybe it's just no.
That is because
I'm in
our
the wrong
new,
area.
we have not updated
Okay.
with the July meeting information because the new website's about to go live. So
Nice.
the best thing to do would be through our website, sign up for the weekly email, and as soon as that's the meeting
did
pages
that.
are live.
Hey.
Yay! Awesome.
Thank you so much. I've got to run to another call, but
Thanks,
I really
Liz.
appreciate the conversation today. See y'all later.
yeah,
Bye-bye.
me too. Thanks again.
It's
Yeah.
great to meet you all. And Jessica, do you want to send me the information about the April workshop and I'll get you connected with Allison for that?
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that right now. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Great to
Sounds
talk to
All
you.
good.
right. Yeah, have a good day.
Thanks,
All right.
Douglas. Enjoy your vacation.
Yeah, thank
thanks
you.
for joining.
Oh my
Thank
God,
you.
you came on from vacation.
That's Douglas. He's a
I'm
hard
working
worker.
half time.
All
I'm
right.
working
All
half
right.
time. So
Half time. He's working part time on his vacation.
All
All
right.
right.
Thanks.
All right. See ya.
Bye.